This issue is not unfamiliar to you all. It regards regionalization of public transportation. And the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners would like to release a statement regarding a threatened termination of bus service in our county. This is in response to statements made on May 11th by the consultant CAT is currently using, Mr. Anthony Johnson, Interim Director of Capital Area Transit, that bus service for Cumberland County residents might be terminated on July 1st of this year. Cumberland County Board of Commissioners states unequivocally that service will not be terminated to our residents. Mr. Johnson's threats have no basis in fact. They are not legal. And if Mr. Johnson pursues this option, the commissioners will do the following. Take immediate legal action to enjoin CAT from taking any action that would jeopardize service in our county. Take all appropriate legal action against any individual or individuals responsible for illegally terminating the service to our county, and ensure that alternate transportation is made available to anyone impacted by any changes made by CAT management to the bus service in our county. These threats were made by Mr. Johnson to reporters in a CAT board meeting yesterday. I personally would like to invite Mr. Johnson and Mr. Eric Bugale to a public meeting here in Carlisle. I would like to hear from them. We would all like to hear from them to tell us why they oppose regionalization of public transportation and present to us a plan, if any, that would be better than the regionalization plan presented by PennDOT and strongly supported by us. We can open it up for questions or other comments here by other commissioners.
I would just like to add that it's disappointing, frustrating that we even have to be holding this news conference today. We've been engaged in conversations with our colleagues in Harrisburg and Dauphin County and with respect to the CAT board for some 5 years now. Trying to move forward on what was a proposal by the State Department of Transportation that envisions saving taxpayer monies while at the same time improving transit service. And the answer we get is a CAT budget proposal that was overwhelmingly approved by the CAT board members, with the exception of Cumberland County's representatives, that is bloated, excessive, doesn't go anywhere near beginning the process toward transit regionalization as envisioned by PennDOT, spends all this money and then proposes to cut service. So as a result of our efforts to move forward with a fiscally responsible proposal to improve transit service for our constituents, not just in our county, but throughout the entire region, and at the same time save costs through administrative consolidation, we get a threat that they're going to eliminate bus service for our constituents here in Cumberland County. And again, I for one, am disappointed that we've had to reach this point. But I'll tell you what, you attack our citizens here in Cumberland County by threatening a loss of transit service that they depend on, and we're not going to sit idly by and let that happen. So we authorized our solicitor to proceed with the preparation of whatever legal action is necessary to enjoin the CAT board from cutting service to our constituents in Cumberland County. Now, I just want to say one other thing, and that is that back in 2011, somewhere in around that neighborhood, when I became a county commissioner, we discovered that CAT had been overcharging us for what our subsidy should be. Under the law, it was set up so that counties were supposed to, and funding partners were supposed to increase their contributions over a period of years by 5%. But what CAT was asking for was above that. And we were giving them that. And again, it calls into question, how much our taxpayers in Cumberland County, how much the taxpayers in the city of Harrisburg, how much the taxpayers in Dauphin County have been paying for this transit agency, which is one of the most expensive of any transit agencies in the entire region. In fact, SEPTA in Philadelphia does a better job in providing transit service at a lower cost per capita. This is ridiculous. We have, again, I think, we've been accused of bullying, okay? Well, who's doing the bullying now? I mean, they're threatening to cut off service to our constituents? Under the quirk in the authority's law, Cumberland County can't just say, that's it, we're done, we're gonna go with rapid transit. Under a quirk in the transit law, it says that we need the support of all of the, or a majority on the CAT board in order for us to essentially regionalize or go a different direction. So that places us in the predicament that we are now, because if we could get out, we get out tomorrow and we find better transit service for our constituents in Cumberland County pretty quick. So we're tired of being, you talk about being bullied, we're tired of being pushed in circles. And it is very frustrating, because our job is to try to do the best we can to do the right thing for the people we represent. And this is a proposal advanced by the PennDOT that would have improved things for everybody in this region. So I don't know where we go from here, but this is, this threat of, now you're going to take service away from our constituents. That's not the way to reach a consensus. And we've talked, I've gone to city council, I've talked to the mayor, we've talked to our colleagues in the Dauphin County Board of Commissioners, and unfortunately, I don't know whether they have their heads buried in the sand or what the hell's going on, but, or what the reasons are not to move forward. So, I'm sorry if I feel a little emotional about this at this point, but we've been talking about and trying to do the right thing for 5 years.
I'll just add a little bit here, because I know we're anxious to get to questions. I would agree with everything that's been said by my colleagues here. It's worth repeating, our concern primarily is with the folks who rely on this service, the Cumberland County residents that are riders of the system, of which I was one at one point. And I know the value of the service, and I know a lot of people who count on this service. So I want it to be clear to those folks who are suddenly feeling a lot of anxiety about whether they're going to be able to get to work or not, to know that this Board of Commissioners is very concerned about the continuance of service for them, something they have come to count on, and they should be able to count on, and they should be able to count on it reliably. One of the things that's very important to note is that we've always kept that uppermost in mind, that this service is about the customers first. And our belief very strongly is that they should not be used as pawns in a political battle, and they should not be used as weapons to hold our county government hostage to a deplorable bureaucratic and financial situation that we are, at least for now, locked into. And we've been very clear, as Commissioner Hertzler noted, that we've been engaged now for 2 years on this issue with both CAT management and the other partners in CAT. So we think 2 years is a lot of time. What we keep hearing is that we need to proceed carefully, consider all the angles. The time for all that has already passed. And those opportunities were present all along, And we've spent a lot of time answering people's questions. PennDOT has spent a lot of time studying the issue, various permutations, various iterations of their plan to try to make sure that it works for everybody. And our feeling very strongly is that they have bent over backwards. They have done more than their share to make this work for all parties. And now we're really at decision time. Our belief, at least I can speak for myself, I think the others can chime in on this, but CAT is no longer fixable. And we're ready to move on. We have a great opportunity to move on to an improvement that will bring better service and it will save literally millions of dollars to the people of the region if we engage it. We cannot understand where the hesitation is coming from. But today's message is really to those riders that we've got your back. We are looking out for your concerns as riders, as well as the financial impacts to all of our citizens who pay the property taxes from which we have to make this contribution as a member of CAT. So I have to say that unfortunately, this type of bullying is not entirely a surprise. It's not entirely a surprise. We have seen that CAT's management is taken a very self-serving attitude toward this issue of regionalization and the opportunities, and clearly has put itself ahead of the interests of the people that they're supposed to be serving. So 2 years. The question is how much time do we need? 2 years isn't enough. I'd like some type of answer as to when is the time for us to move forward on the regionalization plan. We have not been able to get any answers in that regard. So I think we're making our position very clear, abundantly clear, as we have throughout this episode, through this process, rather. So we're hoping that others will take these facts to heart and make their positions equally clear. If they want to defend CAT, let them do it, and let them put facts on the table instead of engaging in this type of name calling and delay and possible retribution. That's all I have.
One more comment, if I may. I have been on this board almost a year and a half. My colleagues have been on this board for many years. When I got elected, I came here. This is one of the things that was placed in front of me. And, being open-minded. Okay, let's look at it and see what's going on. It didn't take long for me to understand what my colleagues were talking about. This threat to eliminate service for Cumberland County residents could, in that threat, would cut about 20 or 30 bus drivers their jobs. Under PennDOT's regionalization plan, there would be no cuts to bus drivers. I don't know what would be cut under PennDOT's plan is the incredible administrative glut that CAT seems to embrace. And I, for one, along with my colleagues and most people I know, do not understand what the delay is with capital area transit and at times with our funding partners. This regionalization, folks, will help everyone, not just in Cumberland County, but in Harrisburg and Dauphin County. And we are not going to let CAT make victims out of our residents in Cumberland County. It's just not going to.
So the portion that Cumberland County has agreed to pay in operating funds, are you guys going to pay that or not? I mean, does this mean that you're not going to pay your share? You want to see how CAT is going to move forward?
We're paid up through October, through the end of October.
So you will?
That's the reserves that Commissioner Hertz referred to earlier about the overcharging. They have those monies, and we've all agreed, Mike, am I right on this? We've all agreed
Okay.
that those monies that they've been banking will be applied toward our share, and that should last us through the end of October. So now the one thing that I'd reiterate is we have stated also that we are willing to put new dollars on the table if they are clearly used for the transition period to the regional plan.
Moving forward,
And that-
regional is, okay.
And that still
So-
stands, that still stands. They-
Because it seems like I was confused, because I thought, the problem was that they did not receive a commitment from Cumberland County that you guys are gonna pay your share. I guess it's like that $300,000, whatever, and that's why they're threatening to cut off services.
Well, one of the things that I just, on that question about additional funding from Cumberland County, one of the things that we stated it in our position on that, we want to move toward transit agency administrative consolidation instead of, expanding the bureaucracy of CAT, which is what this latest proposed budget. So one of the concerns we have, trying to be good fiscal stewards on behalf of the taxpayers of Cumberland County, is that we don't want to pour any more money into fiscal irresponsibility, which is capital area transit.
Is there any way for a legislative initiative on this? I mean, the state makes the laws that we have to operate under, they can change them. I mean, have you approached the state reps, senators?
Yes, we have, and I think a couple of things. We very much have supported the PennDOT proposal from the beginning. The PennDOT proposal isn't anti-CAT. It isn't Cumberland County going its own way. It's all, depending on how you count them, 8 or 9 counties in the central region joining in a consolidated effort. We not only have consistently supported that, we continue to work and have discussions with all the counties involved, including the counties and CATs, about the regionalization effort. And I think the notion is that Mr. Johnson, who is from Texas and may not be really familiar with things, the way things are done here in Pennsylvania, although he is highly competent. We have a situation here where he's created a false dichotomy. He is claiming that CAT will not be able to get its funds from PennDOT without a commitment from Cumberland County to pay up. We have paid through the end of 2016, and as has been said by the commissioners, our continued funding is contingent on taking tangible steps towards regionalization. That hasn't happened. So no, we have not paid our first step, but we'll pay that and whatever else is needed going forward once that step towards regionalization has taken place. What Mr. Johnson is saying is patently false, because that funding for CAT and its operations is covered on 2 fronts. One is it's up to PennDOT the conditions under which it will release the funds. Mr. Johnson and the CAT board leadership doesn't dictate those things. And there are a number of agreements, and you see the detail in the statements that are given out, that in fact have been used before by PennDOT to continue funding. The other thing is, as Commissioner Hertz and Commissioner Eichelberger referenced, when they say we don't want to pay our fair share, well, we have paid more than our fair share in the past, because we and the other funding partners were overbuilt. CAT in 2016, the very board who's making the same threat now, agreed to use those surpluses to continue funding CAT operationally until those funds are gone or were no longer needed. So what Mr. Johnson has done is to create a false dichotomy, a false sense of crisis, a crisis that doesn't exist, and then to make the Cumberland County commuters as the potential victims in what is basically a political play.
So you will pay your share if CAT starts moving towards regionalization.
If there is a tangible movement in that
But
direction.
since they have not shown that, at least not shown that in the budget, you are not going to be paying,
At this time.
at this time, or not be paying your share.
And I think, and Mike can maybe explore this a little bit more in detail, but one of the things that, first of all, McDonald Transit Group out of Texas was brought in to provide interim management to address the issues of mismanagement at CAT. Okay? So they hired this firm, and we had Mr. Johnson in place as a result of that. The answer that we got from McDonald Transit representatives now and interim management is that we need to have more managers. We need to have more people in place. So it raises a question in my mind anyway, what did we hire this outside consultant for if it's just to come in here and recommend we have additional managers? And, you know, how does this get us toward transit agency administrative consolidation as recommended by PennDOT? In addition to that, there's capital expenditures in this budget that we believe may not be necessary if we're to move forward transit agency administrative. So why are we wasting money? Why would we be supportive of wasting money on certain capital expenditures that may not be needed in a consolidated transit agency? It's kind of like, it almost is like, there's no intent whatsoever to move forward of saving money, making the transit more efficient, and actually improving services, which, you know, today our primary focus is letting our commuters know in Cumberland County that we're going to do everything we can to make sure they don't lose the transit service that they have, as unreliable as that may be, and maybe not as adequate as it should be. I mean, that's the whole point of what we're doing. It's not just about saving costs. It is about actually improving transit service.
So, sorry.
No, that's fine.
But wanted to reiterate now, Jim, how much are we paying per month, did you say, for this, the interim?
Well, it's about $20,000 a month. And then I believe there's some additional uncapped expenses. Mike, you can.
About $2,500 monthly of living expenses.
But that's, you know, it could be whatever it is, right? Because that was never.
And, yeah, well, there's a cap of 2,500, so, but it depends on how you define living expenses, that's an undefined term.
And we're also engaged in a study, correct? Mr. Kilmer's
Yes.
role is from which agencies?
Red Rose Transit, McCarty Red Rose, so
So-
Lancaster, Brooks, Camas.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're
that's
simultaneously engaged in a study to try to find solutions toward the management issues. Okay, so as you can tell, we're obviously at a bit of a crossroads with this organization for reasons that we've explained in detail here. So that being said, I have a simple question for the other folks on the CAP board. Why would you want to perpetuate the same problems, which is clearly what this budget that they're proposing will do? So if one of the major problems we've identified is that CAT is overstaffed and spends too much, why is the so-called solution that we need to spend more and hire more? This makes no sense to us.
And cut service.
And
This, the proposed budget, well, I guess it's accepted now, right?
It was approved last night.
Yeah, if you look at this budget, folks, and you look at the goals of regionalization, they're a complete opposite. I would call this the anti-regionalization budget. I heard a bell.
Your eggs are done.
Gosh, there was something oh, yeah. When was last year, did you guys pay your share as well? Or you did? Has it been about a year now?
That's interesting. We were actually in the identical position we are today, except PennDOT accepted the provisional, if you will, support local match. And then there was an agreement by the board, as was mentioned already, then to apply the advances. It was 1.2 million was the overbillings from prior years, substantial amount on the books. So then PennDOT accepted that, the board approved it. So the contrast is they're threatening to cut off service in a bit more than a month now, yet whereas last year they weren't threatening our residents, our transit riders.
quickly pick up, we have met with and discussed this issue with our legislators. Everybody seems to agree that regionalization is a good idea, in spite of efforts by some of the top leadership in CAT to influence legislators in the opposite direction.
Misinformation.
With misinformation that was countered by PennDOT, who met with the same legislators, who then said, that's different than what we were told by Mr. Bugal, who's the chairman of the board of Capital Area Transit. I think everybody hopes that we can work this out amongst, I think PennDOT thinks that, I think the legislators think that. We also think that, and we certainly are working towards that. There are always bumps in the road. This is a bump. But at the same time this bump is going, there are ongoing discussions with all of the funding partners in the region on how to move forward with regionalization. The only people who don't seem to be on the bus, and that's an intentional pun, is the top leadership of CAT and the chairman of the CAT board.
Does anyone have any more questions, comments?
Maybe not coincidentally, the top leadership at CAT, the top position, gets 36% pay raise with the 2018 budget. Whether that's coincidental or part of the motivation, I don't know.